San Francisco, and sitting about this far away from who is one of my managing partners today, Kevin Fowler. Kevin was running a fund with RBC. I wasn't looking for a job. I had never even, frankly, heard of the asset class at that point. I was familiar with Google and I knew a couple of other internet darlings from San Francisco, from the Valley, but frankly, had no exposure to the asset class at all. And Kevin started asking me questions about what I did. I was talking to him about consulting projects that I was doing with Visa and MasterCard and American Express. And at the end, we sort of exchanged cards. I should let you all know that I didn't start talking to him until about an hour and a half left, and the flight to Dog Dangerous, like 5 hours. What's he going to ask me? So it turns out at the end of the flight, he said, let's swap cards. Why don't you come in, meet a couple of my partners. I might be interested. We may be hiring someone in here. And like 4 months later, this got to be from, I don't know, think you're going to do consulting. Like, why do I want to switch jobs to be not really interested? And then my friend's calling me up saying, look, you don't know anything about this asset class, but like it's impossible to get into. It's even more impossible to get into Canada. So, give it a go. And so that is the whole story of how I got into this. It started at RBC. Within 6 months, we launched BlackBerry Partners Fund, which was a fund that came together with Thomson Reuters, RBC, and BlackBerry, sort of the core tenants to $150 million multi-focus fund. And we spun out of the bank and said, okay, we're going to create a brand out of this far beyond BlackBerry Partners Fund. And so we then rebranded ourselves as Relay Ventures. We launched our second fund. It's also a $150 million fund. But we kept the mobile team. We felt like that was important. We were really early into the mobile market in 2018, the mobile focused funds. There were other funds, both in the Valley and in Canada, that were sort of dipping their toes in what mobile was. But if I think back to those days in 2008, and companies that we looked at and how they matured since then, and the difference in the deal flow and the types of companies that we're looking at today, it's amazing both how mobile has redefined itself, number one, and also how this city in particular has redefined itself, I think, as a mobile center of excellence, and really as a core grassroots innovation.
So let's talk a little bit about the team. I know, as we talked on the phone, I think one of the dimensions of the firm that people don't understand is the chairman, Jeff, is one of the most, he's certainly of his age group, he's one of the most connected guys in the Canadian business scene. And then John and the rest of the team. So a little bit about how Relay came together and a little bit about the other guys.
Sure. So Relay really is the merger of what was RBC Venture Partners and JLA Ventures. Some of you are familiar with JLA Ventures. And so John started his first fund in 1996. Kevin started a fund within the bank in, I want to say, 1998 and 1999. And then Jeff, Jim Balsillie really was two architects of bringing the two groups together. Jeff is still on the board and was on the board of RBC at the time, and was influential in making it happen, both bringing in some of the financial resources, but also architecting it together. Him having been a friend of John, and Balsillie happened to be on our advisory board at the time, and also was a good friend of John's through an investment that John made early on for him, which paid itself off. And they sort of said, okay, guys, we're willing to commit this money and we're willing to commit our time, but you guys have to come together in a bit of a shotgun there. So picture really the merger of two startups and the merger of two equals coming together to try to develop a new platform. And that's exactly what happened. And so after trying this thing out and sort of dating together, we're under the guidance of $150 million fund, making investments together and getting together every Monday, sort of said, this is just not working as well as it should. We should be together under one group. And then we proceeded to move, I want to say 3 times a year, 4 times a year. Makes things a little bit tricky for the CFO, but for the rest of us, it's kept it clean down. And so since then, we've opened up an office in the Valley. So we've got 2 partners there. Kevin, who I just remember when I was wearing clean underwear, is living there full-time with our partner in the Valley. This is John Martin. John and I are two partners here in this mentioned before. Jeff, the chairman of the fund, he's active, very active in the fund, both on the nation connections, but also on deal flow, which unusual in this moment that changes filters our way, and he's very active with our portfolio companies and helping them out, and also helping us make decisions.
So it's been a tough time, or there's been a spell of more difficult times for venture capital in Canada over the last, whatever time period you want to use. We had Jordan Levy here in September, and he, immediately, I don't know how many people were at that September event with Jordan Levy. He immediately kind of challenged us about what's going on with venture capital in Canada. I reached out to John specifically because I know he'd done business with they've co-invested, I think, before. And he mentioned John Albright several times as sort of the person that he knows in Toronto. And frankly, if you look at the way that John and the different incarnations have sort of weathered that was really still the centerpiece or the biggest thing happening in Canada. So I think it was appropriate to kick off the year when we believe it's a more hopeful time and maybe talk about, how the Fed dev money is hitting the street. Also talk about, what's going on. Why is it that this group, entrepreneurs, should be more hopeful about what's going on with venture capital? This is not a question just for you. We're going to ask that to Matt Golden in September or in February. We're asking that question to Robert in March as well. So what's your take on maybe why 2015 is a breakout year?
Okay, so here's a good example. The three of us, by the way, all used to work under one group, and we still have great working relationships. The three of us do. The firm still do. But the reason I think everyone here should be optimistic is because you're talking about three people who work for a single fund that are now working for three independent funds, of which you can account for probably somewhere close to $250 to $350 million in capital that's going to be deployed into Canadian and U.S. companies. But certainly that's something to be optimistic about. All with the tech focus, all with the focus on this geography, because let's be honest, to be honest with you, it's much easier to do an early stage investment that's local. They tend to need the most assistance both from a resource perspective, but also just from a gut check perspective. Even, rub the shoulders every now and again to say, hey, you're doing a great job. You can't really do remotely or over the phone or over a hangout. But that is one reason to be optimistic. I think the second reason to be optimistic is because I'm actually feeling now like there's money coming into the sector. The government has been very vocal about the importance of entrepreneurship. There's a humongous focus in schools today that just didn't exist before. So I don't think Jordan would have knowledge or access to that, but if I think about the engineering talent that's coming out of USC, I think about the engineering talent that's coming out of York, and I think about the talent that's coming out of Ryerson, that's coming out of Waterloo, which obviously goes without saying. But that talent combined with the business talent, this urge to be entrepreneurs and start your own things, and the access not only to capital at the earliest stage through incubators like Extreme, through incubators like RFI and DMV, through our activities with the Next 36, all of this stuff is coming together, and it takes a little bit of time. But if you look at the amount of capital that's been invested and deployed into Toronto, in Canada, and I think last year alone it was close to $1.5 billion. And in the early stage companies, 80% of them are technical. Okay, so that's a good number. Could be better? Absolutely. So definitely one reason to be optimistic. The schools are educating people on how to become entrepreneurs. There's facilities in place that take people in like this, but also incubators to help them build ideas. There's funders that are out there. And the last leg of the school, I think, is important. That we've all done a very good job as venture capitalists of bringing U.S. investors to Canada and exposing them to companies, great entrepreneurs, incredible ideas.
Would you rather co with somebody from the U.S.?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, we'd love to go with anybody here. We've done deals with Nash before, but we've done deals with most of the, almost every fund that's based in Toronto. We know them exceptionally well. We all know each other really well. And we're all, but we all have a very similar model, right? Which is, let's finance this thing, let's get good early ownership, mitigate some of the risk for another investor, but there's larger pools of capital that are available in the U.S. It's not a surprise to anybody. You rarely see a Canadian-based VC who is lead oriented, like Vidyard is, right? Really, for all intents and purposes, a really early stage company. I don't know what their revenue was, but somewhere at $8 million pre-raising, close to $20 million. That's a lot of money. And it's really large funds that take that risk because they can afford to. Because $20 million is $1 million fund, same thing as $2 million out of
So, how many people have questions?
How many here, just to get a sense of the crowd, like how many here have raised money for their company? And keep your hands up if you've raised money. How many have raised from investors other than friends and family, or some sort of institutional investment? Okay, good, decent number. And how many want to raise money in the next 6 months? Okay, so for everyone in the sort of middle in that sort of like, you guys just give me a sense of why you're here so that we can help tailor some of the questions to, or tailor some of the conversation to why you're here.
So we are launching our product soon, and I want to learn from you on how we can actually bring it to the consumers, basically how we can make money.
What's the product?
So we have a project management tool that focuses on inter-business collaboration.
Okay, so like sort of like the next generation of it.
Yeah, so you have use Basecamp or Asana or things like that. So we're trying to actually, because right now most CFOs are this internal projects, so we're trying to bring inter-business, cross-business, cross-organization projects to project management.
Okay.
So we're kind of not sure about whether we should make it as kind of organic growth in the users, or we should make it like a SaaS model and things like that. So I'm very unsure about that. And we're launching soon, so that's also trying to find out by going through this kind of thing.
Okay, so the first piece of advice is, where are you located? Where's the company? Where do you work out of?
From in college and college state.
Okay, are you out of Mars?
No.
The Mars, you're not out of Mars. How big is the company? Like, how many employees are in the company?
Right now, around 10 people.
If it were me, and I were looking, so first of all, in your mind, you've got a product. The question is whether the market's going to accept it, right? So whether there's some sort of product market fit, which is really what we look for in the early stages. Some sort of market acceptance. Because right now you've got technology you're trying to push into the market, and you want to create a scenario where the market starts to pull your product in. And that's when the viral growth happens, that's when the lower cost of acquisition happens. But essentially, what I would do if I was a small company, let's call it 5 or less or 10 or less, it depends on the complexity of the product that you're building, I would actually spend a lot of time in places like this, in places like the DNC, in places like Highline, because you've got small groups and clusters of people that will be able to try your product out, and more importantly, they will give you feedback on the spot whether or not you want to hear it. When the thing goes down, they'll beat the crap out of you for it going down, but they'll also give you the best feedback that they can. That's where I would spend time at the earliest stage. That will give you, probably inform you enough to get to the next iteration of the product, at which point you can start to move into larger size organizations. But it's real difficult for me to tell you whether you should be a SaaS-based company or you should look for viral growth or early market acceptance. Like that's, I just don't know enough about what you're doing. But I will tell you that great SaaS-based companies get valued exceptionally well. And there's a very big stickiness to the revenue.
What do you mean valued exceptionally well?
Well, in public markets, they get valued exceptionally well.
In the private markets, what do they get valued? What's the basis upon their valuation at the stage that you might invest?
Well, like if you're at a Series B investment, you might look at some multiples like somewhere between 6 and 10 times your annual revenue. That depending on the
And you invest in pre-revenue startups? And how would you value a pre-revenue startup?
Oh geez, the camera's on. This is the it's the $1 million, $2 million, $7 million, $8 million question. It has a lot to do with a variety of things. You know, number one, what does the cap table look like? How do you make sure that if there's like 5 founders, how do you make sure that founders stay stick around? It has to do with target ownership for us. We like to own at least 20% of the company. And in fact, maybe we should take a step back and address that question. I don't mind talking about it, but the real question is why do we want to own 20% of the company? And why do we want to do it early on? And are we really trying to, take blood from a rock? And I think, being on this side of the table, I actually do not feel like we are trying to steal blood from the stone. I don't feel like we're trying to take advantage of people. I feel like, we have access to a scarce resource, and there are terms that go along with that access to a scarce resource.
And that's capital?
So that's capital. The scarce capital of that, in the $2+ million range is hard to come by. And I don't think that giving asking them for 20% of an idea with limited product line fit at that stage is too drastic. That's just my opinion. From having looked at,
How does that compare to what's going on in other parts of the world or in, do you think that's a kind of a target ownership level that is common to venture capitalists in Toronto?
So it's common to venture capitalists. You look at guys with $150 million funds in that, most of us target 20% ownership. The reason is because we get that as big as you guys grow as well. So we'll bring in $2-3 million we'll likely participate in the next round of financing. We will likely try to maintain our pro rata. So we will likely try to maintain 20% ownership. But there becomes a time as the company grows that it becomes too expensive for us to continue to participate in financing rounds. So by the time everything's said and done, and the company is self-sustaining and it's still growing at a good clip, we may own 12 to 15% of the company. And we hope like hell that we've got $1 billion minimum.
And how many $1 billion outcomes have there been out of JLA or out of BlackBerry Fund, or do you think that are on track here?
Okay, on track would be a different story. I look at our fund drivers out of Fund 1, which was for 2008. That vintage year didn't have that many $1 billion outcomes. $1 billion outcomes came with like commonplace ways and such. But out of that fund, we've got 4 portfolio drivers right now. We think have the potential to do, I'll say $500 million and above. Just because
you're in Wave?
No. That came around 2010. That's part of our anti-portfolio, and while we weren't in Wave, sadly took a close look at that one. Sadly took a close look at Siri. Sadly took the list goes.
And so you invest in Toronto, but you do deals in the U.S. and internationally as well?
U.S. and Canada. We've done the occasional deal in the U.S. We've got a couple. We had in Israel, so we had one in China, we had one in Ukraine, which thankfully controlled. I got nothing against Ukrainian people. I spent a lot of time there. Can you imagine if you had to sell a company today?
So here's an easy question. There's 2 questions for me. The next one will be, take us into that boardroom. I'm giving you a little heads up on this. At the moment, sort of, that the momentum changes where you think, hey, I'm going to invest. That's the number that's coming up. The one before that and completely unrelated. Next 36, you're on the board there, or you're a mentor there, an advisor? You've done it.
We're an investor in Next 36.
And you've invested in a couple of companies there, which Kira. Yeah. And then NIMBY.
NIMBY funded, part of the program. NIMBY is we funded that.
That's out of Next 36 as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or are you?
Part of the broad program.
And so that's been good ground. And you're heavily involved in the OCAD.
We've invested in the United Nations Catalyst, which is OCAD incubator.
Right.
So we've done, we've probably done 3 or 4 investments through that vehicle in there.
And so you have set aside a separate $1 million just to invest in OCAD related stuff.
That's right. It's independent, right?
That's Relay?
That's Relay,
Okay.
and there'll be some matching funds on top of
That's
that.
pretty amazing. I mean, that's leadership, I think, right?
Yeah, so what we've tried to do is we've tried to say that the universities and colleges are really establishing entrepreneurial programs. They're establishing, they're commercializing technology and ideas in a case that they never had before. So we need to get behind this in cases where, the market happens. So U of T, as a side note, has done a great job through the Creative Construction Lab. NIMI was part of that as they were part of Next 36. Next 36 is national. OCAD, you mentioned that before, so we're involved there. We're also investors in RFI, Wires Computers, which is the investment.
That's a $7 million fund, or?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you the size of that. I don't know. They're well sprinkled in a number of startups, and they're starting to see some really traction as well.
And also in Highline, right?
And Highline, yeah. Highline's just not even in the program, right? Why would you mention it? So we were founded as a Grow Lab, we were founded as a institution. We invested in both of those. We invested, once the entities merged, we invested alongside the institution.
Okay, so a little bit about the strategy for those kinds of relationships, and what are the differences between the programs?
Okay, so Next 36 really is a loss at the moment. I mean, we had the weekend, past weekend, they selected their 36 founders, they take 36 people, put them in 12 groups of 3, give them $50,000 to go over the summer. And they are 22, 23, 24 years old, just graduated from the university. And this is sort of like school of hard love. We give you $50,000 today, we'll do something with it. But if you're not making progress, it will be 50. And by the way, we expect you must keep it nice and move around the block and down to the last time that you have the park outside. Then you've got like ours in DMC or RFI. A lot of RFI and DMC, a lot of the next 6 companies end up taking space there. They may or may not get investment from RFI, but that's really intended to take into that next level. So for the next, $250,000 to $500,000 to come raise commercialize themselves and get more product marketing. OCAD would be either for something like Ryerson, as well as something those here, where we would do, again, I think I want to say $50,000 to $100,000 technically, just can't remember the number. But again, to stimulate an idea, not really at the beginning stage of commercialization, but understand what the product is going to do and give traction. And Highline has become a little bit later stage. So we're looking at some product market fit, maybe like $50,000 to $100,000 into that company to get it stimulated. We've done some investing in Highline companies as well, and invested in Chalkwalk. Catherine May had a big she's pretty active in the Eastgate right now. Well, she's done a great job. So the whole purpose is twofold. I think it's to stimulate grassroots, but also for us to find deals.
Okay, so I'm out of questions, so you're up next. But before, take us into the room, the boardroom, whether it's a boardroom or whether it's at some dinner afterwards. What's the moment? Take us to a deal that you've done recently or one that you've seen in your mind, and where that connection is made, where you switch from being a skeptic, which is at 98% of the things you look at, or 99% of the things you look at, to being a champion.
And so we generally see the first meeting. The first meeting goes well and all and goes off. So you got your love down here, or your love of your love growth. Then you walk away, take a deep breath, and say, I'm going to finish the next 3, 4 days, make a phone call, that was from my partner, seeing if I'm, what the tasks is. And then just doing some research. What else is out there? Where we decided not included information where we probably should have been. What's the competitive environment like? This is really a market maker. And they build a platform where you can have services. It's a giant market, maintaining the market. Like, you really go through a lot of questions. And you really do, but I have to tell you, you really do have to. When I first sat with John, when I first sat in the edge, but what's it like? Not great foot. He's like, you cannot get better at it. And up here, John looked at him and said, like, you nuts? This thing's gonna be nuts. I said, well, are you nuts? This is, So we went through that back and forth. And you know, as it turns out, we're not the only ones who think we thought this thing was going to be massive. Like, it's not only a VC activity that is around it, but we thought it was going to be active. Like, also, large corporates that were interested in investing in understanding the impact this is going to have on education in the enterprise. You know, the other one that's local, you know, down the street that way is Fluid. Mark Hogan, I don't know if anyone here met Mark. You know, we did that deal a year and a half ago with the back company, and we led the Series A. And, you know, he's crazy enough to just make $1 billion company. You know, you meet him and you're just like, I can trust him first. He's a good steward of venture capital money because he's just not enough that he's going to be something. Naturally. There's a guy down the street from here, which is Alex Ferrari. Second time through, that gives us a lot of motivation. It's just motivation to do things better the second time. If you walk up and down the street here, you'll see Touch Bistro as iPad point of sale in almost every restaurant around the United States. West here, you know, we're probably sitting at 2,500 restaurants installed. You go down the street at the Levy's at the store. You know, it's another great example. You're like, okay, they've done it 2, 3, 4 times.
Dale Fallon.
Dale Fallon. Like, you know, you're looking really at the quality of the entrepreneur. Their ability to sort of walk to the edge and just keep walking while you stand back a little bit. And that really, the freaking Series A, that is what really is really motivating.
So you told me about your conversation with John, but what about you? Like, I mean, you ultimately are the person who's championing that deal.
Oh, that's right. So
you guys, nobody's in your corner when you start that conversation inside. It's like, you have to do that.
And it's like they gang up on you. It's like, it's horrible. You know, you think that the VCs are hard on you with questions. Like, God, go back to the boardroom and sit with 3 or 4 partners and like an analyst who wants to prove stuff. Oh my goodness, the questions that you got to put up with, and you just have to sit there and you're under fire. Really, it's like, if you think about it, we're not just committing our first check in. What we want to do is ultimately commit, you know, up to 10% of our funding to a company. And when we reserve appropriately so that we can grow with the company. So as I said before, so we can maintain our ownership as long as we can from one company through good times and through bad, and there will always be a time that the CEO is going to turn and look at you and say, I need more money for X or Y, and you got to decide every office right now to do that. But for me, it's a lot of it is personal. And it's not about if I can get along great with them and be their best friend. It's about like whether they honestly are willing to take a step to the edge of the cliff that is farther than me. Okay? If they are willing to take that step to the edge of the cliff, to use a metaphor that is farther than me, and I've got confidence that they're just not going to walk off it, then they've got the right profile.
What are the incentives to work with Relay aside from the money?
Well, we could have fireside chat with you. Whenever you want. Look, we've got everybody's dollars with reason. We have reputation that we have to uphold as investors. And I think that I work with people that have the highest level of ethics. But more importantly than that, I feel like our network is very strong. So we've got 50 plus companies that have been in this portfolio active and exited, but 30 that are still active, that are immediate resources for any entrepreneur to pick up the phone and talk to. If you want a customer, if you have any problem, if you need access to a channel partner, etc. We also have a very, very, very strong advisory board, which is really made up of people from Uber and Facebook and Google and a whole variety of organizations that are based in Canada and the U.S. that we provide access to we have in the valley, where these people come and speak. We have a conference once a year, where we bring 350, 400 people together, mostly to show off our portfolio, but also to talk about what the future of mobile is today. And we think oftentimes within our network alone, you can have your first customer who can demonstrate the commercialization of the product. That's the idea.
How many people are writing checks in Toronto today, for starters?
Like people or funds?
Fun,
I think there's probably 5 to 7 months.
right? And those would be checks sort of 500K and above, or?
Yeah.
And then how many angels do you think are writing checks?
Oh, the number of, the pure volume of number of angels is actually growing.
Yeah.
The volume of the checks is not growing as fast. So, I don't know how to the angel numbers now over like 100 people.
But they're doing maybe how many deals a year? Angel networks.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're decent. The networks here, like English Angels, they're doing a lot.
Yeah. What do you think of that new fund?
Great.
That new, yeah, they're going to make a decision in 48 hours. Who's read about Maple Leaf Angels' new? It's a new fund, or yeah, they made a commitment to make an investment decision within 48 hours. I think that's a good reason to go.
By the way, they do about 5 to 10 deals a year.
They do.
I think they're closer to 5 years. Maple Leaf Angel one will do about 10 years.
Right. You mentioned exits to Google, Apple. How often is there a Canadian sitting on the other side of the table when you do those things? You know, like working for Apple or working for
I
Google.
don't think there has been.
Ever. Okay.
But the only caveat I'll say is Google bought a couple of our companies. Dave Lowry was the head of corporate development there.
He was helpful.
He didn't do the deal.
He was helpful. Sure. And C100?
C100 is great. Launches of C100 were elated to be a part of C100. I think they do a great job on behalf of entrepreneurs that are based here, showing them
Great.
through the value. It's the C100.
It's like a showcase.
Yeah, it's a showcase.
Right.
Great network.
Okay, if you have a question for Relay Ventures and for Alex, this is the time. We're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Specific market question, mobile games, there were, like Y Combinator obviously had OMG Pop, and there were other, venture-based mobile game companies being backed. Is that the thing? Do you guys...
So we looked at a lot of games companies. I spent a lot of time looking at Rovio, as a matter of fact, and I still, to this day, regret not having done it. But I think based on where they're at now, I probably was a wise move. This is the problem we've always seen with gaming companies, and the reason we as a firm have awarded them is because they're hit-driven businesses. And so we've invested in a lot of the infrastructure around gaming to help games be better. Hughes Howard is just down the street from here. John Walsh has a strong gaming background. He's created an amazing platform of analytics that helps drive acquisition and help drive revenue for companies. Companies done, I want to say, at least driven 500 million downloads in the last year, and they're growing like wildfire. So the short answer is games are tough. It's driven business, and it's really a tough business to venture investing.
You were with one of the big games. Go ahead, you have a follow-up?
So you were saying basically to sell shovels and pickaxes, not to dig for the gold, right? To make like a gold rush analogy.
Okay, I'll take it. I can't think about it too much, but it sounds good.
Go ahead.
I want to follow up to that. You see more interest in stuff like Oculus,
Huge focus right now. So we define mobile as everything from the sensor to the cloud. And so huge push right now in virtual reality, huge push right now in wearables, basically huge push in what we call the Internet of Things. But as one of my partners just said to me, like, look, mobile is in everything now. If you think about the connectivity to the web, mobile is embedded in everything right now, whether it's a sensor or whether it is just a Wi-Fi connection point or a hotline. It is connected into everything. So we are seeing, yes, virtual reality is used to play, leveraging and harnessing the device either as an access point to the internet or as the CPU processing power, and having those devices sitting alongside it. Very, very, very big right now. Look, the augmented reality plays are difficult to make. The company in Ukraine, they had a lot of augmented reality actually.
What are you looking to walk through your door that you want to sign a check immediately? What are you not seeing?
I love to understand Bitcoin a whole lot more. We've been looking a lot at it lately. It's a tough market to understand because it's still very, still sort of seems like it's a bit seedy, unfortunately. Even with lots of money going in, it just doesn't feel like there's been a lot of money, it just hasn't been a lot of traction.
You haven't done anything in Bitcoin yet.
No, nothing in Bitcoin. Verticalized commons plays, I'd love to see a verticalized commons play where I'm just like, I can see the world adopting it. Also a tough one.
Like that.
Yeah, like a fab or something like that, or something where you can just introduce into it that, okay, this founder really wants to grow like into $1 billion market, and thinking well beyond Canada, distribution is not going to be a problem, and they've got great answers for the hurdles they have to get over. I'd love to see one of those. I'd love to see wearable plays that are outside of fitness. They use part of wearables in fitness. Part of the reason we invested in NIMI is because it's a bit wearable. Right? It's a wearable that doesn't really do fitness, but it does something more important to a lot of people in fitness, which is protecting their identity. So wearables are use it. We're looking in the medtech space a lot, so that we can help. It's going to have a profound impact on healthcare. It's going to have a profound impact on education. So those are really the categories across the board that we think are the next 9 to 12 months plus. Right?
One more. Go ahead.
So let's say I have a product and I start getting some market traction. How do I raise seed round?
Well, it depends on how much you're raising. It depends on who you have access to capital.
What kind of market traction are you looking for when you make a decision on a seed funding?
Real tough. Also, real tough to say. So you got to be playing into a massive market. That's the first thing. And proof that you've got something that's not only better, different, easier adopted than whatever competition is out there. And then one or two proof points is tough, but multiple proof points is would be a lot better. It really depends, to be honest with you. Personality.
So target market is a big thing.
Yeah, and tough, by the way, sometimes very tough to define. Right? The target market should be important to anyone who's looking at it, because if you want to understand the market size you're playing into, if you're playing into a multi-billion-dollar market and only see you owning, at least 10% of that market, then you're at least a $100 million company.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There's nobody saying, oh, come on, Mike, one more. No,
So I agree that global is increasing platforms, where big data is over. So as in terms of pieces, global. How do you narrow that down?
So we look at trends, like I say, every 9 to 12 months. Narrowing down for us in the next 9 to 12 months. Really going to be about healthcare, education, verticalized commerce, and everything.
Pure talent fit into mobile.
Well, pure talent fits into action. First off, but more importantly, Kira, what we saw there was the future is going to be people using their iPads. Process is more important than the evaluation process. So they build like a Tinder-like feature that academic institutions use to say you're fine or you're not, and that's the sort of evaluation that they're using it for. But also more and more as the cameras get better on the devices, and they become pervasive into the students' hands, and that's what they're using more and more. You got people that are basically doing self videos like this, and
Okay, Alex, thank you.
I know we're not all right, but I don't want to go there.
Well, I think it was fantastic, and, John Albright, as he said, he's not nearly as pretty as he is. Did he say that?
No, I think he said he wasn't intelligent.
Oh, yeah, he said something like that.
Braves win over time, guys.
I can't remember, but, anyhow, thank you for not only standing in, you should have been a guest here because you're, the guy, who was most on top of the real grassroots startup scene here.
Yeah, look, I appreciate it, and,
Yeah.
email's always open, it's easier than a phone call, frankly, and, I will do my best to get back to you. It's alex@reallyventures.com. I don't check Twitter that often, unfortunately, I just find you see it unknowingly, but find me at Alex.
So we try to educate, inspire, and connect. I think that we got a lot of insight into what's going on in Toronto ecosystem, not only with Relay, but generally speaking. We heard about what's going on right in the boardroom when he's fighting it with his partners. I thought we started it optimistically in terms of what's going on in the scene, so we hopefully learn some inspiration. But the connection part is up to you, and by the grace of Olean and Bryce Park, we've had some lubrication to help you connect. So why don't you exchange cards with somebody you've met tonight and get together and share your startup grind stories. Again, thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much.